two classic franchises from the 60s team up for the first time. Spider-Man, Venom, Teen Titans Go, Adventure Time, and much more.
Hey, and welcome to Daddy Mojo. It's the podcast where we'll talk about parenting, all-age comic books, toys, and more. Now, here's your host, Trey Burley.
And thank you for joining us this week. This is Trey from Daddy Mojo. We are going to talk about the new all-age comic books the week of August 15th, 2018. And this is a good week. It is a good week for all-age comic books because it's a very well-rounded week. There are lots of stuff for young readers, as well as a nice section of comic books for those middle school readers. Those kids that maybe they don't want to read the Pink Pony Princess comics. Maybe they still do. We're not judging if you want to. But they want to read something that's a little edgier, a little more oompha. Let's start the week off with one of those comic books, why don't we? It's Adventure Time. This is a trade paperback. So this collects issues 66 through 69. Adventure Time Trade Paperback, Volume 15. This is from Boom Studios. And if you haven't read this in a while, and this is one of those comic books that we read, and sometimes we don't read, and sometimes when we read it, we're like, man, this really is a good comic book. This is consistent in its style of drawing, unlike Adventure Time comics, which is a little more surreal and may skew just a little bit older because of its the way it's drawn. This is classic Adventure Time, the way you see it on the television screen and the way it is. It's fabulous. It really is. And this is worth mentioning this week because Adventure Time is ending its television run on September 4th. Did you know this? If you didn't, hey, it's news to you. Your kids probably know. And kids, you know. The series finale is going to air on September 4th, Cartoon Network. We were fortunate enough to be sent a copy of it before it airs. And here's what I can say about the series finale to Adventure Time. It's beautiful. If you haven't seen the show in a while, much like what I just said about the comic book, you're used to the style of animation. And the style of animation in the series finale to Adventure Time, it mainly sticks to the style of animation, but it's beautiful. It's more beautiful, and it's stranger, and it's so much bigger. And that's especially true for the very last episode, which is 44 minutes. You say to yourself, that's a lot of Adventure Time. And that's one episode that's 44 minutes. Can you handle it? You can. It is really good. Plus, it tells a more coherent story, which, I mean, if you watch the cartoon, you read the comic book, you're used to very small stories, very short stories. This is a fabulous episode that you really need to check out when it airs on Cartoon Network on the 4th of September. Fans will be super excited about it, and they will love the surprises, because if you're a fan of Adventure Time and you like the show, there are some genuine twists for you that satisfy you as a longtime fan, but also for the casual viewer who maybe tune in maybe once every 5 episodes. You're going to love it because it will bring back characters that you might have seen. Maybe. Or maybe it's just Finn and Jake go eat pizza. I don't know. I can't say too much about it. All I can say is it's a fabulous episode, and you should really look for it when it airs on September 4th, Cartoon Network. And that's to say also, this collected graphic novel trade paperback of Adventure Time, Volume 15, great stuff. Collects 1, 2, 3, 4 issues from a steadfast comic book that is worth picking up any month that you see it in stores. By the way, this is Trey with Daddy Mojo. Did I mention that? You can reach out to us anytime if you want to tag us on Twitter. It's at Daddy Mojo. And when you purchase comic books on Wednesday or whenever, if it's an all-age comic book that you're like, you know what, more people need to read about this, like Blastosaurus last week, we tagged that a couple times because that's a fabulous property. We're going to tag this next one. Just tag it Daddy Mojo or all-age comic books so people can see what you are reading. That'd be great. This one is really neat. This combines 2 properties from the 60s that are great and that have also, in addition to being really popular in the 60s, have demoed out and are still popular now to the same demographic that it was in the 60s. Archie meets Batman 66. This is issue number 2 from this miniseries, and it combines the classic Archies with the TV camp of Batman 66. Wow. I'm sure maybe you've seen this comic book. We've talked about it a couple times. But this is a team-up that really makes sense because Archie, the kids from Riverdale, they've teamed up with everybody who you wouldn't have expected them to in the most successful ways. Like the Punisher comes to mind, the Ramones, and other people, other characters that didn't make sense but still made for a really great comic book. Sometimes a one-shot, sometimes a miniseries. And this is another one of those miniseries that, wow, it really delivers. And it's great to see Batman on the Batcycle again. The classic 60s Batcycle. The premise for this is that Batman receives a call from Riverdale, but he's Batman, and he's a middle-aged dude. He can't help go undercover. No, he can't do it. So he sends Robin and Batgirl to Riverdale to go undercover as some high school transfer students. You've probably already ordered it. Based on that description, it's hilarious and it's action-packed. And kids 6 and up will be able to handle the content in this because the content's going to be great for any age. However, ages 6 and up may not be familiar enough with Riverdale or Batman to want to read it. Therefore, maybe 8 and up, they're going to enjoy this comic book much more. Archie Meets Batman, issue 2, and let's tag it appropriately, Archie Meets Batman 66, number 2. Dragon Con is coming up in a couple of weeks. It's Labor Day in Atlanta, and if you say to yourself, what is Dragon Con? We're going to talk more about Dragon Con next week. Basically, it's a fan convention. Hundreds of thousands of people descend upon Atlanta for some of the greatest cosplay you will ever see. There is a massive parade, and it takes place, it occupies almost every hotel in downtown Atlanta. It's a fabulous hootenanny time, and these folks will have some presence there to an extent. If you like comic books, it's not really a comic book centric thing. It's more about the fans. So if you're a fan of comic books, man, there are tracks upon tracks of information and data strictly for comic books. There's also an all-age track called Kaleidoscope that is just kid-friendly programming. But again, more on Dragon Con later. I got the dragon before the horse then. Jim Henson, Beneath Dark Crystal. This is a year-long miniseries, much like the one that Boom Comics did last year, that also centered around Labyrinth. This is a little, it's all Dark Crystal. So if Dark Crystal was more your jam versus Labyrinth, you may dig this. Actually, no, it was the power of the Dark Crystal. So this is more like Beneath the Planet of the Apes to the Planet of the Apes. This is issue 2 of 12. It's from Boom Studios. If you like Dark Crystal, and if you like the Middle-earth Jim Henson style of looking at things, and you like this storyline, check out this miniseries. This is issue 2 of 12. While we're talking Dark Crystal, there is a brand new exhibit at the Center for Puppetry Arts. It opens in late August, just in time for Dragon Con. Do you see how they work together on this? This is Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal, World of Myth and Magic. And what the Center for Puppetry Arts does is they work in conjunction with the Henson Estate, and the Jim Henson Company, where they get these rough drawings and these mock-ups and these rough designs of these characters, these iconic characters that were in The Dark Crystal, and it shows you how they were made. And it's beautiful stuff. They've done things like this before, and I really look forward to checking out this exhibit. We're going to see it again. We're going to see it next in about a week or so. It hasn't opened yet. But they've had some previous Dark Crystal exhibitions. Beautiful stuff. Really, you get lost in there. And the entire place there at Center for Puppetry Arts is beautiful. As a family, you'll spend about 2.5 hours there, even without going to a show. You go to a show, it's slightly longer. And that's worth doing. This is the week for the all-age comic Dufecta, as I call them, from DC Comics, where Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Issue 94 is out. This is only $2.99 for one of the best all-age comic books out there. This is classic, fun stuff. It really is great. You laugh at it. I laugh at the cover. There's an ice monster. The gang's in trouble. You know what's going to happen, but kids love reading this. Kids in pre-K through 4th grade love reading this. It's their comfort food. Our 3rd grader still loves reading it. He's been reading it for about 3 years, and I recommend you to get that. The other one that is in the dufecta, as I call it, is this. It's Teen Titans Go. A little more modern, a little more contemporary. Teen Titans Go issue 29, again from DC Comics. Same price point, $2.99. Can't beat that with a stick. In this issue of Teen Titans Go, they break the fourth wall again, and they talk about their movie. The movie Teen Titans Go, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, that is one of the funniest movies of the year, and one of the funniest movies I've seen in many, many, many years. Really, go see it if you haven't. They talk about their movie. Is success going to their heads? It probably isn't, but Robin is going to yell and boss everybody around with hilarious results. A trade paperback for the Princess set is this one, Disney Princess Comics. This is a collection from Joe Books, and this is volume 4. This collects previously published stories from the Disney Princess monthly comic book. You've got stories from Cinderella, Belle, Tiana, Pocahontas, Rapunzel, and many other Disney princesses. Who is this going to appeal to? This is going to appeal to the dad I saw in the comic book store a couple of weeks ago who walked in and said, I have a 5-year-old girl. What can I get them? Get them this. Obviously, the 5-year-old girl may not be able to read this, but reading it is half of the fun. And that's why you were in the store anyway, getting books for your children, isn't it? Disney Princess Comics. It's a collection. It's a collected trade paperback, volume 4 from Joe Books. Archie Comics has another one out, and it's not what you're expecting. It's a square superhero book that teams up Spider-Man and Venom, one of the greatest pairings of anti-hero and hero, or however you want to skew them, or whatever mood Venom happens to be in. This is one of the square comic books that you will see in the checkout lines at grocery stores. You will also see it in bookstores. You will also see it at comic book stores. And if you go to your comic book store, it's neat because Archie Comics has provided them, well, they provided some of the comic book stores with a nice little display. That's almost like the checkout of the supermarket. But if you go through the supermarket checkout, you'll see it there. It's Marvel Comics Digest and Archie Comics. So they're teaming up for this one. And it's square, so it's not big print. But it's great characters. It's a one-shot deal. They're only printing this once. So buy it for the money. Sell it for less money in 2 years. It's Marvel Comics' best-selling heroes. They're back in a digest format. This is the 7th issue that spotlights Spider-Man and Venom. So there could be more, and this is always a great storyline. Really, buy it. 8-year-olds will love this. Even, you know what? Our 6-year-old probably wouldn't like it because he's not too superhero yet. If you have a 6-year-old who really digs superheroes, they'd be cool with it. That is it. This is Trey with Daddy Mojo.
Thanks for listening to Daddy Mojo. Be sure to tune in next time. For more information on any of the things we talked about today, just check out the website, daddymojo.net, or hit us up at Daddy Mojo on social media.